And our business actually grew from 250 million in sales to 500 million in sales in 1 year without adding any product lines. And he's like, dude, your guys' videos are killer, but are you generating deals? And we're like, not really. He goes, I know why. And we're like, why is that? He's like, you're literally not telling anyone to call you. I ended up getting 17 of those buyers back in 30 days, and we put all 17 under contract. We call it The Show. Tune in for the Living in Houston YouTube show. These people literally, like, even my wife, they're like, screws cartoons. We watch Rachel on Saturday morning. Say the same thing on Jackson shit, like the Houston. Screw cartoons. We got the Living in Houston. Me and my whole family, we just sit around the TV waiting for the show to come out.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. I have Jesse Dow, and you are going to love what he has to say. He is a nationally recognized realtor, team leader, and co-founder of Channel Junkies, and they are a leading YouTube marketing agency for real estate agents. He has over 15 years of experience in corporate America and 7 years as a top producing agent. Jesse has closed hundreds of transactions while at the same time building multiple high-performing real estate teams. He is an expert in helping real estate agents leverage YouTube and social media to attract clients, scale production, and grow their business sustainably. He's super passionate about systems, branding, and results, and he's known for his very straightforward approach and proven track record in agent attraction and team growth. So welcome to the show, Jesse. Glad to have you.
Thank you. It sounds like somebody wrote a biography about me.
I wonder who did that.
Must have been my GPT.
It must have been. Gotta love that GPT. Was it a custom GPT?
No, just regular.
Just a regular one where you're just like, okay. So I want to talk to you today. Obviously, we met in Scottsdale a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, I know you. I've seen you all over YouTube, and you have a really unique approach to helping other real estate agents, but you also do it in your own business. And I think that's really cool. So can you kind of start and, tell us, who are you?
It's interesting because a lot of people look up my stuff on social media and they'll think I live in like Portland or Phoenix. The last place they think I live is Idaho, but that's actually where I live. My business partner lives in Houston. So, when COVID hit, like the social media scene for like YouTube exploded. And I was originally really testing out different like theories of social media in the real estate space. My background actually in the corporate America was in the brewing industry. And actually, I was very fortunate in early like 2010, 2009 to go through a huge transition of traditional TV, radio, and billboard advertising into digital and social. And so I worked for Mark Anthony Brands, which is actually owns Mike's Hard Lemonade and White Claw. And they used to be based out of Seattle. And their headquarters was right on Jefferson, and it was right behind CenturyLink Field. They actually bulldozed the building and they moved to Chicago. But I remember back then, they told us we're going to move all into digital and social. We can actually target market our consumers. They actually taught us about geofencing. With back in the day, they used to have these little geofencing balls you could put in locations. Now you can actually do it with like more hyper local with stores. And so we were like real early in the game, but like nobody understood digital and social marketing. So we were presenting this I called on all the national chains on the West Coast. So I was calling on like Chevron Global, Jackson's, Town Pump, Stinkers, a lot of local chains, but like big for their states. My biggest clients were like Chevron. They're the fourth largest company in the world. 7-Eleven's obviously huge. Anyways, trying to talk to somebody, especially when the buyers were all in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, about how you're going to transition media and go from spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year on marketing to like, now we're going to go to this device in your hand to like market. And they just did not buy into it at all. And they actually ended up using the ads agency that had convinced our company to switch to educate us properly on digital and social and how highly impact it was. And our business actually grew from 250 million in sales to 500 million in sales in 1 year without adding any product lines. So with digital and social, you could actually get advertising like 200 to 1. So it was so cheap back then, but way more powerful. So now instead of some kid sitting on the couch watching a commercial about beer that can't even buy, you're now only targeting consumers that are you're in your buying bucket. So we actually did a lot of social media strategies with Mike's Harder, and that was like a huge convenience store package. And I really loved how digital and social media marketing was growing brands. And actually, when you saw White Claw come onto the scene, it was actually probably like the best strategy and launch of any beverage that I've ever seen in my life. Because what they did is they actually went straight after the legal age college, like that really early 21, 22-year-old. And if you saw it, you wouldn't have paid attention if you didn't really care about this, but I did. And it was right when COVID was hitting. And they really focused on these like young college, or I should say 21 and over college kids, but they heavily invested into social media. And it took like a full year of college to go through. And then that brand just exploded. And so I wasn't in the industry then, but I just watched it and I'm like, it's so crazy how fast, like even viral sensations can really take off. And now I'm actually getting ready for EXPCon. And I was just reading a statistic that said that 92% of consumers trust an influencer's endorsement over a celebrity's endorsement. When I got into real estate, I quit my job cold turkey from the brewing industry. My dad died from liver cancer. And I was married to my ex-wife at the time. And she had a bout with like depression, anxiety, addiction. And I just like was like, I've seen alcohol destroy my dad's life. Now it's like taking a toll on my own life. And I was like, I just need to get out of this. And like from our episode before, like you were telling me about like your marriage. And so anyways, I quit my job cold turkey in the brewing industry and I ended up getting into real estate. And it took me about 3 weeks to get my license. Something severe happened and that was on July 1st. That caused me to quit my corporate job. So I ended up quitting on July 1st. And then I got my real estate license on like 3 weeks later, jumped in and started cold calling, doing open houses. And cause I was asking this one agent in our office, like, where's all the hottest leads? And he's like, someone has a sign in front of their house that says for sale by owner. The other one, there's open house people coming, they're actively buying. So I knew I had to make money fast and I didn't close a deal for like my first 90 days, but I was just like, I created all my own scripts for sale by owners. And I did the same thing for open houses. And what I realized like on for sale by owners is that a lot of the training that they were giving at KW, it was like a combative script, but I had like high level sales training in corporate America. And especially like calling on like large, like Walmart, #1 company in the world, Chevron, #4 company in the world. Like you're dealing with like very high level sales. So when I got into real estate, I'm like, no one's really sales training here. And the acronym that I love in sales training, what we used all the time was LAYER. It's listen, acknowledge, empathize, and restate. So like I told myself, I said, if I call these for sale by owners, I'm just going to get on their team. And then when they're ready to use me, I'm still going to try to close them and ask for the sale, but I'm just going to try to become an ally of them. So the thing I always did is when I call them up, I would always just say, hey, this is Jesse. I just want to know if the house at 123 Main Street was still available for sale by owner. And they would be like, yeah. And I'd be like, fantastic. I'm with eXp Realty and I wanted to know what I can do to help get it sold. And they'd be like, bring me a buyer. And I'd be like, fantastic. I'm like, I got one. I was like, do you want me to bring you one at a time that's going to lowball you? Or would you like me to market your house to the most amount of buyers that are very well qualified, that are willing to pay you top dollar? And they always all said the same thing. They're like, oh, I want the one that's willing to pay the most. And I'd say, great. How about I come over today at 5 or 7 and I can show you how to make that happen? They'd be like, well, I'm not going to sign with the listing, blah, 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 whatever. Some of them would be like, yeah, come on over. Let's see it. And so I'd go over my listing appointment. Some of them would be like, I'm not going to hire you, this and that, this and that. Like, and I just said, I have every intention to list your house. I have no intention to not list your house. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But if I did have a buyer interested, I would still set up the appointment. And then I would never try to bait and switch them, but I would always tell them that my intention is to list your property. And then I realized like really quickly that, and I'd say it was very far and few between where they actually said like, just come over and preview it or, bring your buyer. They'd be like, oh, if you're not serious, don't come over. And then I would just I knew based on like their friction points of like what they were saying, how far out they were from actually listing. So if they're like, I'm going to hire an agent, they would always go down the same path. It was #1. It was like they were excited because they were getting all these calls and they were all agents. So I knew the next step to their pain cycle was they're offering a buyer broker compensation. So they'd be like, oh, I'm willing to pay a buyer's agent. At first, I'm not paying anyone. Next thing they'd be like, oh, I'm gonna pay a buyer's agent. Next thing they would do is they would drop the price. The next thing they would do is they would be like, oh, I'm gonna interview an agent. I'm open to hiring an agent about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. So then I'm like, okay, they're on deck to go. So then I would just call them every day because a few of them would say, oh, I'll call you back when I'm ready to interview. Then they never did. I'd see the house listed. So then I started realizing like, oh, they're getting called by hundreds of agents every day. So now I'm just going to ask them every day, like for an appointment. And then that started happening and it worked like clockwork. And then, the open house, I just used a simple strategy, which I took my pen and paper. They came in, I would just be like, take a look around the house. How'd you hear about us? Are you actually actively looking, or are you a nosy neighbor? Oh, I'm actively looking, blah, 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 blah. Great. What's your name? Joe. Joe, my name's Jesse. Nice to meet you. Take a look around. I'd love to talk to you before you leave. So they'd go around, they'd come back up, and I'd like always write their name with like their description on my paper. And they'd come up and I'd be like, so what'd you think of the property? Oh, it's great, blah, 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 blah. Or, oh, it's not great, blah, 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 blah. Great. Like, is this a house that you're considering writing an offer on? No, not really the house that is going to work for us. Oh, is it like, what about it isn't going to work for you? Oh, we need 4 bedrooms. This is only 3. Great. And then I'd say, oh, can I get your real estate agent's contact information so I can let them know they can scratch this one off the list? And either A, they'd say, oh, I don't have an agent, or B, yeah, I have my agent's info. Here you go. And then I'd always text their agent, let them know. But if they said no, I'd say, well, I have a couple other houses in mind around the same price point I'd love to send over to you. And if you like them, let's go out and take a look at them. And I would send them the properties, send them a video message afterwards. And I'd say 50% of the time they would actually be like, yeah, let's go look at these houses. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. So I'd give them like the freebie of showing them the house or two. And then I would say, like, has anyone ever talked to you about what you're going to do when you like find the one? And they'd be like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, how are you going to write your offer? What's going to happen when they get the offer accepted? Like, has anyone like timelines, inspections, like go through the buyer broker presentation essentially. And I was doing Zoom before Zoom was Zoom. Mm-hmm. And so that like opened up my business a lot, because then I could have my lender in one room, the client in another, me in another, because I was always trying to get them together before. And I used Teams, actually, Microsoft Teams, before I was in real estate. And so that philosophy like worked great. So my first year I did 24 deals, half from FSBOs, half from opens. The next year I did the exact same thing. But after the like 18 months, I was like, this sucks. And I hate this, even though I made like almost 400,000 my first year, which was like 4x my salary from the previous years. I was just like, I can't do this anymore, and I need to figure out a better way. And, transitioning, I heard everyone was saying video, 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 video. But like with my background in social media, just like I was always asking the agents, like, are you closing deals from your videos or your content? And they'd always say no, but they'd be like, oh, it's what I'm using for branding. So I was always kind of skeptical. And then I'd hear these podcasts and these agents would be, oh, I'm doing these like $high listing videos and I'm selling all of these listings. And then I would meet the agent at an event and I'd be like, well, how many of those came from those videos? And they'd be like, none. And I'd be like, man, but like, I just thought I had to do it. So I started going down this path of like wanting to create a celebrity status, but I wasn't really knowing what to do. And so, there was a big giant transition into the digital and social media world of real estate. And I was not prepared for that. And I ended up like blowing like $100,000 of just creating high quality content that meant nothing. I was making blogs, Facebook posts, Facebook groups, podcasts. Like, if you could do it, I've done it, and I've done it at a high level. And so it was just a very, very eye-opening experience. And then, as fate would have it, the cracks started to form. And what I realized is when I was doing all those social media things, I started a podcast called Digital Mayor Now. And that actually, like, I was getting all the influencers on the podcast. And what I would ask them is I'd say at the end of it, it was like, how many deals have you closed from your content? They would all say no. None.
Wow. Okay.
And if you looked at their social media, everyone that was following them was real estate agents. So they'd be like, oh, I get referrals, and things like that. So that's like even today in the modern world of social media, I always say, like, what is your aim? What's your target? And because you can have two truths. And what I've learned is with a lot of content coaching is that somebody that coaches one content might think that, 8 to 10 million a year in sales is fantastic, and that's great, but you're putting out videos every day. You're in the DMs. You're like trying to like create and generate sales. I was always trying to solve for volume. So what I noticed is like through this evolution and the interviews, actually, it was the interview that we did with Karen Carr, and she's the OG of YouTube. Mm-hmm. And she actually said at the final question, she's like, actually, I have a closing today in like three or six, I can't remember what the number was, in escrow. And we were like, wow, like, what is she doing differently? So what she was doing was she was taking her blogs, converting them into YouTube videos, and she had like relocated around with her husband because he was in the military. And that's how she was generating sales. So me and my business partner, Jackson, we went onto our YouTube channel and we saw that like all of our big videos were all like pros and cons, cost of living, different types of videos like that. So then we realized Jackson had just relocated to Coeur d'Alene, or from Coeur d'Alene to Portland at that time. And he was actually my title rep, and I'd convinced him to get into real estate through this content thing. And this is about 18 months into real estate. So he jumps over and he's like, dude, I relocated. I know what I was searching. So we got on Google, we started searching it because there was like no real tool for YouTube at that time for search to see if the search results were. There was Morning Fame, which is what we used early on, but she was teaching Keywords Everywhere, which is a Google tool. And so we were like, oh, 30,000 times a month living in cost of living in Portland, Oregon. We put it into YouTube and boom, it was 300,000 times a month. And we were like, holy crap. We're like, people want to know what it's like to live here. And they probably want to see what it's like to live here too. So we started making content. We actually built out this list called the YouTube Gold Mine. We made out 25 video titles, made the videos, the views started coming in, and there was no calls. And we were like, actually one guy contacted us through LinkedIn and he's like, I've been watching your content forever. I'd love to work with you. And we ended up selling him a house, and he bought it in the ghetto. And I told him, I'm like, dude, this house is the ghetto. You don't want to live here. And he's like, oh no, I come from the ghetto of LA. Literally, this guy called us like 6 months later. He's like, I can't live here. This is crazy. And I still remember like closing day. We went to his house. There was a backpack in the backyard and it had 3 laptops in there. And the cops were like chasing this guy down the street. And he ditched the backpack in the backyard. So anyways, our lender was doing our editing for our content because he like believed in the idea as well. And so his boss and us met at the bank, and he's like, dude, your guys' videos are killer, but are you generating deals? And we're like, not really. He goes, I know why. And we're like, why is that? He's like, you're literally not telling anyone to call you. And so he's like, and you can't do it at the back of the video either, because most people are falling off by then. He's like, you really got to hit that call to action up front. So this is before anyone was really going on YouTube and there was no competition. So we used to use this old strategy where we did the hook, the call to action, the video, then the outro with the call to action again. And the first day we dropped that, we were actually in Portland on the Tillicum Crossing Bridge. And Jackson's like, hey, I have this great idea. He goes, I'm going to just roll with it. And I'm like, all right. So he's like, hey, what's up? This is Jackson with the, Living in Portland team. Today we're going to talk about the 5 boroughs of Portland, Oregon. So stay tuned. He was like, hey, what's up? This is Jesse and Jackson with the Living in Portland team. If you're thinking about relocating here, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Day, nights, weekends, we got your back. We're moving to Portland, Oregon. And so went through the video, call to action again, boom, dropped the video. The next, like when we hit that video out, our phone exploded. It was like 40 calls. And Jackson like calls me and he's like freaking out. And he's like, dude, you're never going to believe this. These freaking people are calling. They're dying to work with us. And he was like driving to go meet the Zillow lead. And the guy, like, literally we laugh about it to this day, because this guy said he wanted to chainsaw the house in half and subdivide this lot and all these things. And then he's got this YouTube client calling. They're freaking out. They're like, I can't believe it's Jackson on the phone. And they ended up being a couple from Canada, the first call ever. We actually just closed them like 2 years ago. Nice. And that was a whole other situation. But anyways, like people are calling like crazy. And we were like, damn, we like struck gold. So 3 months go by, and my deal with Jackson is that he was gonna have to quit real estate because I convinced him to get into real estate and he wasn't closing deals. And I was so busy. I said, hey dude, I'll give you 25% of my closings if you just become my assistant. And then let's just focus on this content thing. And once it like takes off, we'll split everything 50-50. And on your deals that you close, you give me 25 and vice versa. And I knew he was never going to sell a house. He even says to this day, he's like, I'm the world's crappiest realtor. So 3 months go by and we're getting all these leads, and we go through the whole summer. And this is like, I can't remember if it was 18 or 19, but we go through the whole summer. And I remember calling him one day and I'm like, Jackson, dude, like, what's up with these YouTube leads? I was like, you haven't put one in a contract. Like, what's the deal? And he's just like, man, he goes, I just don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't understand. Like what, like none of them want to buy a house. And I'm like, are you asking to buy a house? I said, like, when they are all excited, don't you say, hey, do you want to write an offer? Like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just opening the door and showing them houses. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I said, I want you to give me all of the transfer every client in the CRM to me. And he's like, I don't even put these people in the CRM. He goes, I literally have just been keeping notes on a Post-it note. And so he literally gave me all of these notes on Post-its. And this lady actually, and what spurred this on is this lady came to town. And so Jackson showed her 4 homes. She calls me and she's like, Jesse, I'm here to buy a house with my mom. And Jackson showed me these 4 houses and said, there's nothing else on the market. And I said, well, what are you looking for? And she goes, I'm looking for this type of house. This is the area that we're looking in. Jackson said he showed me everything, but I'm here to buy a house. I said, okay. I said, tell me like what your must-haves are. Like, give me your non-negotiables. And I literally pulled up, I found one house. I said, this is the house. I said, I'm going to go show it to you. And I took her to the house. She's like looking at it. She was a designer. She's like, I love this house. I love this house. I said, you want to write an offer? She's like, yep. Boom. Close the sale. Actually, that house is on the market right now. They're selling it 6 years later. And so I called Jackson. That's what spurred that call. He transfers all those leads over to me. I call every single client. I was like, hey, I said, I know you came out to Portland because 99% of YouTube's relo. Call them back. Hey, I know you were coming out here. You looked at houses with Jackson. Like, were you serious about buying a house? Yeah, we really wanted to buy one. We didn't find one. I said, I'd love to invite you back out. I'll give you 2 days of my time. We'll find you a house. Okay, great. I ended up getting 17 of those buyers back in 30 days, and we put all 17 under contract. And then I was like, Jackson, you were never selling real estate ever again. And so it was 19 because what was coming? COVID.
Yeah.
And so then we brought on our first buyer's agent, and then all hell broke loose with COVID. And like all of a sudden everyone was free to move about the country and it was insane. But we ended up randomly, I made it onto Gary Vee's podcast.
Okay.
And it was basically like helping entrepreneurs grow their business. And so I told him what we were doing. And I was like, how do we grow and scale this thing? He's like, oh, you got to go to Seattle. He's like, work your way out into like heavy relocation markets. So he's like, go to Seattle, then to Boise, then to Sacramento. And he's like, basically just start going across the country. So we went to Seattle and we got leads really quickly, but they were like all rental leads. And it was like, even people moving to Bellevue, like I have 10 grand a month. I don't want to buy, my company's paying for my rent. So that really like destroyed Jackson's like self-confidence. And he like went through this dark period. And then he went to Coeur d'Alene. And this is like right when COVID's going off in like March of 2020. And in less than 6 months, that channel closed like 10 million in sales off of YouTube. And then we were in Portland and all the riots were breaking loose. And I actually lived in downtown Portland. And I was literally like, right now you're seeing all the stuff on the news going on about the ICE riots down in South Waterfront, which is a complete different location. But the main riots were happening about 6 blocks from my house. And I was like, this is crazy. And the mayor lived next door to me. And he was like, oh, this is only going on because I live down here. If I didn't live here, this wouldn't be happening. So he moved out. Obviously, that wasn't the reason. It kept going on. So one day I called Jackson. I'm like, hey, dude, I said, I can't take it anymore. And he lived out in the suburbs. I said, I can't take it anymore. I said, I'm leaving this city. And he's just like, really? And I was like, why is that? And he's like, oh, my wife and I last night were talking about moving back to Houston. But he's like, I was scared to tell you because we'd done this channel together. And I was like, I don't even know why you're here, dude. I'm like, we can easily do this in different locations. So I said, why don't you move to Houston? I'll move to Dallas and then we'll like divide and conquer. So he takes off to Houston. Well, in the interim, we just came to EXP in March of 2020. So this is only like 3 months at EXP. Okay. And I hadn't really figured out the whole recruiting piece yet. But then I met Chuck Fazio in my upline and found out that him, Curtis, and my sponsor, Curtis Johnson, all lived in Phoenix. And so I called Jackson. I said, actually, I'm just going to move to Phoenix to be closer to our network. And then I can leverage them. And if I have to fly people in, I can just bring them into one location and we'll all be there. Because Chuck actually had this killer house and he was hosting these live in-person events. And then we could and I actually brought down a lot of people and brought teams over there and whatnot. And then they ended up moving over. But then we started a channel in Phoenix, started the Houston channel. And then it blew up like a rocket ship. And it was just the craziest thing. So our business went from I went from 10 million as a solo agent, 10 million, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. And then it's just consistently done the same. And it's all primarily YouTube. So a YouTube buyer in relocation moves twice. They move twice as fast as a normal consumer. And so the reason I like them is they move quick. So it's typically if they're moving from a market to yours, you can typically get a listing referral. Then you can get them on the buy side and then they're going to sell quickly. So you get another sale. And a lot of times they move to the neighborhood that they don't really like. And I used to tell clients this all the time. And my wife says it's crazy. She's like, I can't believe you tell these people not to move here or to move to this area. Then they do. And then they do exactly what you told them that they're going to do. Like, you're going to move to this area. You're going to hate it. You're going to call me in a year to sell your house. And then we're going to have to go through this process again. Because I try to convince them to like get an Airbnb or just rent for a little bit. But a lot of people are so adamant because some of them get bonuses from their work or they just want to have a home to call, place to call home. And I get it. I wouldn't want to move. This was back before I had kids. And so I didn't realize I was just a single guy. And I'm like, hey, do this, do that. Like, la, 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 la. Well, that people don't like doing that. But
no.
So anyways, fast forward to today. that's like basically where we're at. We've gone through a couple transitions with our Houston business. That's our flagship channel now. We just did a huge merger down there in March with Ferris Realty. They actually moved their team to EXP, 50 agents, their brokerage. And so all of our leads in Houston are generated on one channel, and we funnel them into Kyler's team. And he actually has another channel that does more production than us. So it's like both channels are funneling all the leads into one channel. So he actually built like the first mega team that's like 100% fueled by social media.
Wow.
So I know that was a lot.
Yeah, but you said a lot of, I wrote down a lot of things. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm like, we can go into these. So a couple of things was, what I heard a lot of was YouTube, focusing on YouTube provided you freedom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Provided you location freedom. And you have more than one YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a bunch.
Yeah. How many do you have?
Total, we have so me and Jackson together, we have 11.
Okay.
And then my wife has a channel on her own. So that's like 12 for me.
Okay.
And then we have one for marketing, Channel Junkies, and then we have one for recruiting, which is cloud-based brokerage.
Interesting. So in all of your channels, okay, I'm going to ask for a couple of secrets, YouTube secrets. I know people are going to watch this. We're going to want some secrets. So you said two things. You said, which kind of it kind of came over from when you were doing sales, but also into your YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. First thing you said was you have to ask. Yeah. People don't know. And I've learned this on social media, and it's really, I teach the exact same thing. Until you tell the consumer, the viewer, whatever it is, until you tell them what to do, they're going to do nothing. Yeah. And if you give them too many things to do, they're also going to do nothing. So you had said you have to come from a place of intent. Like, what is your intent with what you're creating? And then you've got to tell them what to do. Yep. Yeah. So how did you figure out when you did this? How did you figure out your intent, and how did you figure out how to tell them what to do?
So that's a good question. So and people always ask us, like, the $1 million question is, can you get listings from YouTube? And the answer is I'm aiming for volume. Mm-hmm. So if you categorized out all the buyers and all the sellers into buckets, a really key statistic that Keeping Current Matters put out a little while ago is they said that 51% of all buying consumers, their number one search tool for finding a home is actually YouTube. So 51%. Crazy. Every other buyer out there is using YouTube. And realistically, if you think about a buying funnel, the first thing that comes into someone's mind is that they have a problem, right? And then they go into research mode. So somebody on YouTube is looking years out. Like, they are so far out in their search. So it could be someone looking in their bed at night, and they're thinking about maybe them and their spouse have talked about moving to another city. So they're just on YouTube looking at different videos. And so if you think about in the different cities, like not in their home city, but if you think about somebody selling their home, they're not on YouTube being entertained about how to sell their house. There's no dream there, So there's no carrot. So realistically, if you think about who needs the most help and who needs the most education, it's literally a relocation buyer. And also they don't have an agent to help them. So I've looked at every bucket of every consumer. And so also, if you can look up on YouTube what's trending topics and keywords and titles. Mm-hmm. And there is never a trending title that has anything to do with selling your house. And maybe how to sell my house for sale by owner, but then that's nationwide and it's very small and they're all trying to figure out how to do it for nothing. So we've tried doing it. It never worked. And so some agents have been able to grow their channels to massive scale and then use it as a listing asset when they go on listing appointments, yep. Which is what I used to do as well. So we would just basically, and it was funny because I was a market expert. I was a very good agent, and my business partner, Jackson, was brand new, never sold a single house, but he had relocated. So he was more relatable to the people on YouTube than I was because he had already gone through the pain that they're about to go through. So they were reaching out to him, and he'd never even said he'd ever sold a single house. So a lot of agents want to position themselves as this market expert, and then they're talking about the most nerdy things, which is something I did a lot of. And that isn't what the person cares about. What they care about is, is there somebody that's going to be able to help them bridge this gap? And so when you talk to agents all throughout the industry, because now our agency, we only work with agents that are doing 100,000 or more on their YouTube channels, and we help them scale and grow. And so a lot of them, they always say is the people that reach out to you, it's they're your best friend. And even when we were early into this game and we would go and meet with clients, Like Jackson and I never even needed to know who they were, because as soon as we walked into where we were meeting them, they were freaking out like we were celebrities. So there's a term called parasocial, and that's like where people think that they know you based on the content they're watching on social media. Like my wife gets stopped all the time here, and we were actually at the ice cream parlor on Sunday, down the street from our house, and we like walked in, and this guy's like, this husband and wife were in front of us and their kids, and they're getting their ice cream, and then the guy goes, "Oh my gosh, it's Rachel." And the lady's like, "Who?" And he's like, "The YouTuber." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's you." But like, she was like wearing sweats and a hoodie. And then like every time she goes to Costco, she always gets stopped. Yeah. So anyways, these people are always watching. So it's literally just speaking to your audience and like really focusing on, like, we know it's relocation. So that's who we speak to. That's what we make our content for. And when you talk about like call to action, like now the game has changed. And then with YouTube, you're only trying to solve for average view duration. So there's really like 3 primary traffic sources with YouTube. It's search, browse, and suggested. Browse and suggested are SEO or algorithm. So that's what YouTube is trying to put you out in front of people. Search is very like people that are actively searching you. We know that if you can get caught by the algorithm, you'll get 6 times the amount of traffic versus search. So a lot of people get stuck in search because that's what you can physically control with your titles and your content. But we try to solve for average view duration, which is long content, because YouTube's number one goal is to make money. They're an advertising company. So you can't do the whole, "Hey, this is Jesse and in this video I'm going to show you 5 pros and 5 cons of living in Portland, Oregon. Hey, I'm the number 1 agent in Portland, Oregon, blah, 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 blah," because people will just fall right off and they'll click off your video. Yeah. And then you've lost them. So now we do this. We have a whole content strategy now where basically we call it hook, micro hooks, and then we call it the undercover call to action. So let's just say someone's doing a home tour, and they're like showing the cabinetry, and it's wood stained, and it's like, "Hey, and it's a new construction home," and you're like going through the kitchen. And I always say you have to like make it like be painfully slow, because these consumers want you to be their ears and eyes. So if you're going through the kitchen and you're like, "I don't know about you, but I actually love these wood stained cabinets. This is actually alder with a Java stain." I know it sounds really weird, but we actually found that a lot of our clients actually love the white cabinets or the blue cabinets. It doesn't matter what colors you guys like or what wood stains that you like. When you guys reach out and give us a call, we will walk through the design center with you and help you select some cabinets. But the only way you can make that happen is by reaching out in advance, giving us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and we'll walk you through the entire process and talk to you even about what type of incentives this builder is actually offering consumers right now. So that's like an undercover call to action.
Got it. That's cool. Like you're basically telling them, you're basically doing, first of all, you're doing the walkthrough. And you're helping them see, like you had said earlier, you got to help them dream, which is why sellers are hard to get on YouTube, because like they're not dreaming, right? So you got to help them dream about what it could be. Like, this is what you see, but it could be this, and this is the only way that you can get that.
Exactly. And that's exactly right. And we found like if they're emailing, if they're calling you, they're typically calling you because they're like, "Hey, I'm coming to town next week. Yeah. Can you help me buy a house?" If they're texting, they're a little bit further out. If they're emailing, they're even further out. And if it's a lead off of the website, they're like 12 months plus out. Yeah. So there is a different funnel for that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was utilizing YouTube as my for real estate, I actually did get a lot of listings from YouTube, but it wasn't because I was talking about sellers. I had nothing to talk about. I think I did like a whole like how to sell your house series, which was useless, right? But what I actually got listings from was when I did vlogs.
Yeah.
I would do like a property tour.
I found that like people that are like in more tech savvy markets is like, and it, you never know where these consumers are coming from. And it's also the language you're choosing. So like with us is we will drop in there every once in a while, like every 4 videos, because we'll say, we notice that 20% of our viewership is coming from the local marketplace. So if you are someone that's local here, give us a call, because we also do represent buyers and sellers locally. And because what a lot of agents feel, and they get burnt out, actually they don't get burnt out, they get bored on YouTube. And they're like, "I'm always talking about the same thing." They literally think they're making videos for the same consumer every day. And I'm like, you got to realize these consumers are on like a 6-month rotation. So we just have like a specific styles of videos. We have a top of funnel, middle of funnel, and then bottom of funnel video. And then we also have a strategy based on like how long you've been in the game. So if you're brand new to YouTube, you're going to use a different strategy than if you're someone that's been going. Or we've even had instances where we've had to like basically tell an agent that they need to start from scratch. And it seems like the agents that have done a lot of deals are a lot more inclined to being okay with starting from scratch. But we will always try to revive a channel if they've really screwed it up. And it can take like 6 months to get the ship turned around. Yeah. And we've had agents that like typically if they're working by themselves and have their own editing team and they're doing everything in house, they want to save it because they're more interested in their ego than their checkbook. So they're like, they think 6,000 subs or 4,000 subs is cooler than $600,000 in their bank, which has never made sense to me. But the agents that have done it at a high level are always willing to like say, oh, I screwed this up. I just want to start over and like tell me what to do because they don't want to risk 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like that's the other thing that with a lot of people in YouTube is it is a long-term game. Like you don't just create a video today and it's going to automatically pay off tomorrow. I mean, you had to go through multiple different iterations of finding something that worked for you, but you stuck with it, right? You didn't just like do one video and be like, hey, you're like, no, this is what Karen Carr's doing. And you're right. She is the OG of YouTube. She's the first person when I was looking at doing YouTube for my real estate business. She was the first person I ever looked at. And then you guys were the second. It was actually, so the whole parasocial thing, I just have to say, like, when I saw you in Scottsdale, I'm like, oh, that's Jesse Dow, Channel Junkies. I know who he is. Like, I know him. And I'm like, I didn't know you. But it's that parasocial thing. Like I thought I did.
Yeah. And a lot of agents will always be like, well, how long does it take to generate a lead and this and that? And, you know, it's different for everyone and nobody ever wants that answer. And I never promise income. I don't do income promises. I can't guarantee leads, but I can tell the agents that if they follow our strategy and listen to us, like they will generate leads and closings. And like with our own channels, we have a channel that we just had to relaunch because our agent partner quit. And it's crazy to me. I never thought that getting too many leads would cause somebody to quit, but it did. And so we had to restart from scratch. And in less than 3 months, we've closed transactions. We have less than 100 subs on the channel. And it's like 9 videos and it's already closing deals. Yeah. And we just launched another channel less than 4 weeks ago. And we just got our first buyer under contract today in less than 4 weeks. So it is a long-term play. And also you could always like randomly catch someone that's like a hot buyer that just randomly catches you catch on YouTube. So there are those Hail Marys that do happen. But when you start like scaling it up, it's just like a whole different strategy. And the thing that I found that most agents and why they love it is because it is scalable. It does create brand and it also creates business. Yeah. But also it is flexible. We have a lot of agents that just make content and they let their team or other agents close the deals and then they just get like a referral from it. So that's like my wife. She has a channel. It does about 13 to 15 million in sales this year. And she doesn't sell a single house. It just rings her buyer's agent and he does all the work. He does all the transaction coordination, the buyers, and he was making 60 grand a year before he got into real estate. Now he's making 6 figures and he doesn't have to generate the leads and he loves it.
And that's scaling. Like that's 100% what scaling's all about. So that's when you said earlier, or I said earlier, that it sounds like YouTube has brought you a lot of freedom. Mm-hmm. It's done that not just for you, but it's done it for most people that work with you guys.
That's the thing is, and this is like why we focus heavily on agents with success is because, you know, a lot of people focus a lot on like new agents and helping them get to a certain level. And the thing that really bothered me was that 97% of them just never did anything. And then they would blame us for their failures. And so I completely changed my whole strategy and focused. I said, we're going to focus on agents that have channels that are having success and we will help them grow and scale their business. And that has just paid dividends. Yeah. And it's interesting because, you know, it's like one of those things is like when you don't need the business, like people want it really bad. So like, even when you're like, unfortunately, we don't like work with new channels, like we just can't help you. Cause I know right away whether or not someone's going to be good. Like a good test is like, can they put a video into Google Drive? Like that alone you'd be surprised. You know, we are not.
Oh, I know.
YouTube is like the highest level of like content creation. And the reason that people are drawn to like Instagram and TikTok is because it's like a short, you can make it on your phone. It doesn't take a lot of skill and you can put those videos out, you know, and agents will like use the views as their reward. And so YouTube is also painful in the sense that like, it's a slow build. Like you said, like you're getting 10 views, 50, 100, like it's compounding, but it doesn't give you that crazy instant gratification that like an Instagram reel can give you. And I grew my Instagram account I was like, I'm going to try to get to 100,000 views a month. I went to Jared James' private mastermind and I got it to 100,000 like really quick. But then I noticed that if I did a video where I was drinking a tea at this and eating a banh mi, and I got like tons of views, but it was like all from Vietnam. And then it reminded me again, like the views mean nothing. And that's why I always say I'm here to sell homes, not views and subscribers. And so yesterday I was actually meeting with an agent that was at our event that wanted to get into YouTube. And he kept showing me that he had this video that had 700 views on his Instagram account. And he was so excited about it. And what it was a water bottle. They were at lunch, him and the title rep. And the title rep was like, I can get you like 1,000 views really quick. So she made this video with Perrier. And then she like tagged Perrier and then tagged the restaurant. And like, yeah, it got 1,000 views. But like, I'm like, I go, look at that traffic source. It's like 90% from France, dude. I'm like, they're not moving to where you're at. Trust me.
You know, which actually brings up a question. And I'm sure that we've talked about this, but you know, some people who are experts in YouTube say that you don't want to have your shorts on your channel because shorts reach a totally different, just like you said, reach a totally different audience. So I actually went and looked at that, and because I had shorts and my long form videos published at the same time, and I had people from Bangladesh looking at my shorts.
Yeah.
But they're not viewing the longer form content.
Yeah. So like, this is like when you start getting into like niche topics, like you always have to remember like who the coach is and like what are they aiming for once again. And so like I used to do, I did Patrick Bet-David's consulting.
Yep.
And we had a huge argument. Me and PBD had a big argument over the shorts on a channel. And I said, dude, you're solving for the world. I'm solving for a very niche targeted demographic. Like I know what shorts do. I've been in the game. And so when we did shorts and we looked at it, we're like, all of the search traffic was coming from all over the world. And the titles were like camel rides, taco food trucks. Like it was nothing to do with our market. And so what is YouTube solving for? They're solving for average view durations. YouTube created shorts in a counterattack against TikTok because TikTok was solving a problem in the marketplace that YouTube wasn't solving for, which was short video. Well, if you look at the viewership now that the dust has settled with TikTok, YouTube is back to being in the driver's seat. But what is very interesting is they just had Connected TV Con in Denver in June, and the CEO of YouTube was there, and he said YouTube is not trying to be TV. TV is trying to be YouTube. And he showed that on YouTube, there's over 1 billion hours of content consumed every day on YouTube TV, and that's only 50% of the content. And so if you look at YouTube's traffic of viewership, it's like, if you took the pie and spread it out, YouTube has like a 14 share of TV traffic, of streaming traffic. Disney and ESPN Plus is number 2 at like 9%. YouTube doubles Netflix. Wow. So if you think about that, YouTube is a behemoth. And this is actually what got me into like even thinking about YouTube early on. And I still remember the first iPhone 3 I ever had came with YouTube as a stock app. And I thought it was really weird because I was listening to music for free on YouTube and Apple owned iTunes. Well, now that I'm like an expert in YouTube, I now know that YouTube was the first ever third-party app that was on the Apple device, and it came stock.
Interesting.
And so think about this 20 years later.
Yeah.
Our children and the kids that are like, we were the first generation because YouTube is now 20 years old. We were the first generation to have YouTube, and think about even like Facebook and this and that. But we were the generation that was living on YouTube, like the first see it. So now we're of a buying age. So we use YouTube as a primary tool. Like I said, 51% of buyers. But think about the kids that are just like 5, 6, 7, 8. My kids only want to watch YouTube. Everyone I know, everyone's kids is like YouTube, YouTube, YouTube. So like millennials and Gen Zers, like even when I'm out vlogging, they're freaking out because they think we're influencers. And they all, like 86% of Gen Z and millennials or Gen Zers, they want to be influencers as their primary career choice. So we have a long runway with this, and YouTube just keeps gaining steam and momentum, and nobody can compete with them. And the thing I love about YouTube is it's been the same since day one. They don't change the algorithm every week. They don't make all these crazy tweaks. Yep. The only thing that YouTube does is figures out how to solve for more and more towards average view duration, because before they used to measure their algorithm based on like signals like likes and subscribes. That's no longer a thing. People used to get like clicks. That was a huge thing with them. For like, so they would make a video that said cats play with like, a mouse. and then it'd be a real estate video. That was bait and switch. Now YouTube's only measuring stick is average view duration, which is the way it should be. Now you hear Instagram doing the same thing, TikTok does the same thing, and they're all trying to compete with they're trying to get share of our eyeballs, right?
Yep.
So the longer we're on these platforms, the more money they make. So the crazy thing is like on my Houston channel, in the last 365 days, we've had 348,000 viewed hours of content. That's almost 1,000 hours of viewed content a day.
That's crazy.
On TV alone. That's TV.
Yeah.
And our average view duration is 27 minutes on TV. So it's like the numbers are so insane. And we're consistent every Saturday morning. We call it the show. Tune in for the Living in Houston YouTube show. These people literally, like, even my wife, they're like, screws cartoons. We watch Rachel on Saturday morning. Say the same thing on Jackson's channel, like the Houston. Screw cartoons. We got the Living in Houston. Me and my whole family, we just sit around the TV waiting for the show to come out. And it's like, people will DM us, and I'll even tell them, I'll say, hey, tell me your kid's name, and I'll have Jackson shout him out on the show. So like Jackson will randomly be like, hey, we got a comment from so-and-so. We'll bring it up on the TV. And just let you know that we got you, you know.
You said something about average view duration. Yep. So when let's say you're talking to an agent who, they come on, is there a number that you're trying to achieve, or are you just trying to get more than what you currently have?
I'm from the school of like always striving for improvement.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, here's the thing is, if you make a 10-minute video and I make a 30-minute video, if my average view duration is 10 minutes and 9 seconds, you will never have the opportunity to get that because you're not even making content long enough. So what I do know is that a very simple eye test is, we always talk about being favored by the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So how can you see if you're favored by the algorithm? It's very simple. All you have to do is go into your studio and look at, there's a dashboard component. And you can just look at there's a live viewing tab that says 48 hours of views. And actually with Patrick Bet-David, he actually looks at this all the time. And this is like an industry secret, is if you have 5 videos that are over 50 views, so your last video will typically always be over 50. But if you have 5 over 50, you are favored by the algorithm. That is the key indication. So when you ask like, what is the key metric? I can tell you right now, if your number one traffic source is search, you're making too short of videos, which I will guarantee 90% of agents watching this is number one traffic source is going to be search. You want it to go browse, suggested, search. And you want suggested and browse to be 75% of your search traffic. And so when you ask like, what is the AVD? Like our average view duration that we're aiming for is like 6 minutes and above. So typically what I'll see on a good channel is 6 minutes and above on search, 6 minutes and above on browse. But whatever the total average is for the channel, suggested should be double that. And if it's not, that means your content's also too short, which typically is the case. But on a really good channel, the suggested content will typically be about 15 to 30 minutes.
Now I want to go look at my dashboard. I'm like, oh, what does mine say? Now I want to see.
I do all of the channel audits for the agency. Yeah. So I can tell within 30 seconds. I do this for a living now. I'm like, I know exactly what's going on with an agent channel and whether or not we can actually help them.
Yeah. So speaking of the agency, so, you obviously have a strategy. You said you have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel videos. So depending on what they're trying to do, I'm sure you probably have certain topics or whatever that you want them to do. Yep. So that being said, does your agency also build the funnel for them? Because that's just the video, right? So do you do the whole back end funnel too?
Yeah. So our agency, we have our core offers is called Scale Plus.
Okay.
So there's Scale Plus with or without channel management. So with channel management is editing, thumbnails, videos, all the things. If they're just doing Scale Plus, like coaching essentially, then we will still give them their titles and give them like content strategy. We review their content. So basically, like if somebody came to work with us, we would do a full onboarding with them. Well, first we go through your channel. We do a full-blown channel diagnostic. We call it a teardown. We go through your channel. You meet with me for 60 to 90 minutes. We go over the review. From there, somebody can either apply that cost in moving into our agency, or they can just go on their merry way. Most people are getting that because they are enrolling in the agency. And so then from there, I will send them they'll get the recording, and that'll go to our agency director and then they'll get all set up. And then based on how long their channel is, how long it's been around, what the content's on there, we have a different strategy for different people. But yeah, like if somebody was like saying, hey, Jesse, what's the perfect strategy to get rolling? If I never built a channel in my life, is I would go with I would go Wednesday and Saturday launch. Like videos would launch on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And on Wednesdays, I would have a very heavily optimized search title. So, and it would be solely focused on the search traffic. So it would be cost of living in, say, Seattle, Washington, pros and cons of living in Seattle, best 5 suburbs of Seattle, Washington. Mm-hmm. I would only be using Seattle, Washington is my title. Even if I was making videos on Bellevue, I would only be using Seattle because that's what everyone is searching.
Yeah.
And then on my Saturday videos, I would be doing Seattle, Washington full vlog tour. These would be all 10 to 18 minute videos on both days. Okay. 10, 18 minutes. Seattle, Washington full vlog tour. Bellevue, Washington full vlog tour. Kirkland, Washington full vlog tour. I would run that strategy with that Wednesday video. I'd be going Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. As soon as I had one video like pop off, because you're going to see it, it'll get like way more views. Say it's 5,000 views. You're getting 100 views, 100 views, 100 views, and then one goes like 5,000. Immediately that Saturday video now is going to 30 minutes in length.
Yeah.
And you're going through a content shift, because what that tells me at that moment is that the algorithm has engaged with the channel and it has signaled that it's time to go. So you have to be ready for that. And like, if you already have your videos pre-made, obviously keep putting them out. I'm just saying now it's the time to really amp up the times. And then also you could inject like a home tour at that point on your Saturday videos. So a lot of our clients only do one video a week. So I always say one video a week for an established channel is good enough as long as it's high quality. 2 is always better. But a lot of agents, because making content, especially on YouTube, is time consuming.
Yep.
Even Mr. Beast, look at his channel. He drops a video every like 60 days now.
And you don't need to worry about it anymore.
Yep. And I do Alex Hermosi coaching now, and he talks about the same thing. He goes, unless you're going to do quality, then doing 3 videos a day isn't going to work. Right. So if you look at their output of content, and remember their audience is the whole world, it's crazy. We actually went through in the last session when I was in Scottsdale, when I saw you, I did the coaching session there. They brought up like all the top influencers, PBD, Dave Ramsey, like everyone that's massive on social media. Mm-hmm. It's like they're doing 3 long forms a day, 3-hour podcasts a week. They're like doing like 18 shorts a day. And it's like, dude, you can't keep up with these guys because they're doing so much volume. And you look at Gary Vee, there's actually the best video in the world on YouTube. It's Gary Vee and Alex Hermosi's brand manager. He did a podcast and he talks about their whole strategy. And he goes, those guys post 300 times a week. So you're not even in the game with them. And they'll tell you, just post. And they use these like very high level ideas. But he's like, at the end of the day, like he goes, if I was a new business owner, and these are the people I'm aligned with, and why I love them so much is because they speak the real language. Right. They say, if you're a business owner, you should focus on 3 platforms, whatever they are, and you should make content specific for those platforms. Boom, boom, boom. And then from there, you can have secondary platforms, which they call feeder platforms, is what you can repurpose content for. So they're like, figure out your ecosystem. And like with YouTube, and say you're going to cut up your YouTube into YouTube shorts, and I say put them on a separate channel, is in your long form, you're going to need to inject like 20 micro hooks. Because that's where your shorts need to start at your micro hooks. So you have to be really good at like structuring a video. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Because agents are all the time like, oh, I repurposed this. I put it into, whatever the repurpose. Yeah. Exactly. And it never works. It doesn't grow. It's like, yeah, because you're not making the content specifically for that platform.
Yeah. And I've actually noticed that. And that's actually one thing that I will teach. A lot of my business when I first started came from Instagram and Facebook. I got a lot of business. I'm not like the agents that you talk to that would post content and not get business from it. I actually got business. I actually closed $50 million in sales directly from Facebook and Instagram. So, and that's actually a little bit more now, but I would always tell people, I tell them like, you can't, first of all, you got to go from, choose your first platform, just choose the first one and create content for that platform. And the reason why repurposed content doesn't work, and that's, I can actually speak to this 100% right now, but the reason why repurposed content doesn't work is because each platform is looking for something a little bit different in your video. right?
Exactly.
YouTube, like you said, you just told me the YouTube thing. Instagram is looking for something that feels more organic and more authentic. So when you have a repurposed podcast, like I put these on Instagram, they're fine. Like it's there to fill space, but they don't get nearly the reach as a photo or a carousel these days of me and my husband going rock climbing.
Yep.
Because Instagram and Facebook more specifically are about you as a person, like your personal brand. They're about you. Whereas YouTube is a search platform. It's where people are going they want something, they want knowledge. So that being said, I want to ask you what you think of real estate agents doing market updates. I have an opinion on this, but when they're just talking about market updates as like the content piece, what are your thoughts on that?
No buyer in the world is going to YouTube and typing in market update. I'll just tell you that much. And like, actually, it's funny because a lot of these agents are like doom and gloom YouTubers. And I always say that those guys live rent free in like Brian Buffini's brain. Cause I went to the Brian Buffini event, and like anyone that's real data focused, because, they're actually saying, it's very interesting because I go to all the industry events. And the one thing that I'm hearing more than ever before is that like these YouTube influencers, doom and gloomers, are having more influence on the industry making buying decisions. And so like a lot of them are like, oh, I'm waiting for the market to crash. And so you'll watch the video and it'll be like the market crashes, but there's like, once you open up the video, it's like literally not them talking about that. And so we actually have a friend that runs the #1 doom and gloom channel in the country. Okay. His name's Travis. He's out of Houston, and he only does it for ads revenue. So he's actually a lender, and he's like, I bought a house and the market crashed and I hate the industry. Like he literally hates the industry. So he does everything in his power to disrupt the industry. And he probably gets 300 leads a month for lending, and he just doesn't care. He's like, I only need to make 10 grand a month off my ad revenue. And so I say that the market updates kind of fall into that category. Okay. And also what I notice is like, if there's an agent that says they do like a ton of deals on YouTube on market updates, if you go and look at their comments, it's always people that are either local or like their friends. So they're probably using that video link to send to their database and to drive traffic. And you know what? If that's the way they're getting business, that's why I always say, look, there can be two truths. Right. Somebody could say, hey, I have success with market updates, and maybe they're putting it into their CRM and it's part of their business model and this and that. So I'm always like, is it organic? What's their target? How many deals are they getting? Do they have receipts? And has somebody replicated this model into multiple markets? Yeah. So, I think market update's like a good place for somebody to start that maybe has never turned on a camera.
Yeah. I always looked at market updates as like, look, people are not really care. They don't really care what the market's doing unless they're actually thinking about buying or selling.
Yeah.
Like they're not lead generation pieces of content. It's more like, just like you said, you send it out to your database, you let them know what's going on just so you can maintain some expertise if that's part of your strategy. But I was just curious.
We've had like some agents that were like in their 70s with a huge, I have some agents whose entire age demographic of their YouTube channel is like 65 plus. Mm-hmm. And they seem to love data. Like that age demographic. So they like market updates.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the analytics and you realize the age of your audience too. So I always, age of your audience, I look at mostly Instagram and YouTube, age and then demographic. I always find it interesting when I'm like, oh, my age on my YouTube channel is 45 and up, 75% women.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, interesting. So it kind of like shows you, it kind of gives you an idea of the content to create too, if you know the demographic. So yeah,
my wife, her channel is like, she focuses heavily on single level RV bay homes, because the average price point for them are over $1 million here. And so her average demographic for her is like in the 60 plus retired age. So it's funny, like she was like, I notice when I talk about schools, our viewership drops like on the video. So she like eliminated all that. And as much as she wants to attract families, it's always the retired age. And most of our clients come from Washington.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a lot of people moving from here over there. Also, that's the kind of house that I'm looking for. So there we go. And I'm not 60. Level RV bay. That's exactly.
My wife's always like, why do you want an RV bay? We don't have an RV bay. I'm like, we have a freaking storage unit. I want to bring that stuff home.
Yeah. Well, my husband wants one because he wants to he loves cars. So he has an Audi. He's going to hate that I just.
R8?
It's an R8. Yes, thank you. He's going to hate that I couldn't think. It's an Audi R8. He has, there's one of just a few made of this model that he has. So he got one of them. And then he has a new one that he wants to add. It's another AMG that he wants to add to the collection. And so part of the reason we want an RV base because he can put a lift and he can have both cars in the garage.
Oh yeah, a lot of those RV bay homes here have lifts in them.
Yep, that's what he wants. Okay, so I just want to ask you a couple more questions, mostly about just hot topics, right? AI.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think AI is going to change the industry?
So, I mean, in the industry, it's going to eliminate all the drag on anything that's repetitive. So, like transaction coordination. I think they're they got the biggest crosshair on their back. I think, it's been really hard. So the problem is like with like even in social media with like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, if you use a scheduler from any of those platforms, they throttle your content. If you schedule from the platform, it's fine. But if you use like Hootsuite or whatever,
yeah.
And YouTube has actually injected this tool now where it measures the AI language and the AI voice, any AI voice and language, and also imagery. So it uses a 0 to 100 point scale, and if it knows you're generating AI content, it throttles you. Because remember how we used to see all those faceless videos?
Yeah.
They're gone now.
Yeah.
Like all of that, you cannot trick these companies. Like they're using AI. And so
your AI is better. My AI is better than your AI.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's definitely going to change. I mean, I can't wait for like voice transaction, which is coming. There's so much cool stuff, but it's just like anything else. It's if you use it, great. If you don't use it, you're not going to be able to you're going to lose it. I talked to a guy yesterday who was like, I'm like, how old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm 70. I want to get on YouTube and this and that. And I'm like, why? Like you've got to be close to retirement. He's like, the industry's changing. He's like, the industry's changing. He's like, whether we like it or not. And he's like, if I don't get on it, I might as well just kiss myself goodbye. He's like, I've literally been losing transaction year over year. He's like, everyone thinks they can buy a house from YouTube. They can sell a house from YouTube. I was like laughing about that. But
yeah, it's true, but he's right. Like the industry is changing. I think AI is going to be, it's just interesting. I think right now a lot of agents are spending too much time going down the wrong AI rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Like for example, there's this one new AI tool that someone just said yesterday. It's AI video twin. To where I don't know if it's HeyGen or something, but it's like an AI video twin where you can actually like have a picture of yourself and it'll create a video of you walking down the street. And so people are talking about how you don't even have to leave your house to actually create content anymore. And I'm just kind of like, I personally think that's, going down the wrong AI rabbit hole. That's my opinion.
So there's all these AI tools out there like that. And if you hear their success stories, they're like, oh, we got this agent 8 deals from whatever. I'm like, okay. So then I meet with these people because I'm getting hit up by them all the time.
Yeah.
And then so I said, tell me who's your number, like your best clients. I always tell people, I said, I want to know who your top 3%ers are, who your bottom 3%ers are, and then who's the median. And you know what they said is like all their top clients were agents that had never created content before.
Yep.
That they can now like get them on like, but I'm like, when I watch the content, because they kept trying to tell me how impressed they're like, oh, this is so impressive, you'll never know, and this and that. I'm like, dude, give me the AI and give me the side by sides, and I'll nail it 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm. And
they're like, and then they were like, well, a skilled eye would know. And I'm just like, the problem is like we went from this era of like non-AI into AI where people were getting fooled, but now people are like hyper aware and like scared, like getting scared of AI.
Yeah.
And so like I have AI voice answering services on a couple of my channels. I actually have it on my Spanish speaking channel. Mm-hmm. And then I have it on my wife's channel, but it's a backup play. So like if the phone rings 3 times and it doesn't get an agent, the AI voice kicks in. So I use it as a backstop.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. And I think that you basically said it. It's like we went from almost 0 to 60.
Yep.
In like 2.2 seconds on AI. And all of a sudden AI is everywhere. So people are almost like putting the brakes on it. And they're just like, no. I mean, even me, like lately I've been like, I don't really want you using ChatGPT or Gemini or anything because like, for example, I give I'll give someone on my team a task and I want them to come up with the list of what we need to be doing, but they can't do it without AI. Yeah. And I'm like, well, there's the problem is that we start to lose our critical thinking skills. We stop being able to think like a human because we can't actually write a list of like our step by step without having AI jump in.
If you really want them to keep their brain sharp, just tell them to go over to like a Replit and build a website. Like I've never coded anything in my life and I've like built like 3 of them now. And I'm like, all right,
yeah.
This will stretch your brain.
Yeah. We did a BitHub. GitHub. Sorry, we did a GitHub the other day, and that was challenging. I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out because I got to test my brain because we're
Yep.
so like AI for everything. Okay, so finally, what I want to see, what do you think is like the most common myth that needs to die?
Like in the whole industry?
Yeah.
Oh, the most common myth is like that, like so there's like literally the agents that think they're getting business because of their brand. Like they're at Remax, the balloon is what gets me the business. Like I've never, like, this is the greatest opportunity of recruiting that we'll see. So like 2020, 2021 was like the greatest time for buyers ever with 2% interest.
Yep.
Like now is the time for recruiting. And the reason why is because like I've noticed like the legacy brokerages that are non-capping models that are very hard to like convert to like our model because we have a cap model, they don't understand it, or they've used it as like fuel against us. I've seen that the foundations have cracked now, and now I've been able to bring over Berkshire, Remax, the list goes on. But they've always said, like, they all come on and they're like, I was so brainwashed. I really thought that I was getting this business because of like my marketing from my company.
Yeah.
And so last week in the leadership call with Leo, I was asking like, who's the next one on the chopping block for a merger to happen with? And he actually had this diagram that he showed us that shows every brokerage's volume, every brokerage's sales per agent. And he goes, if you see, it's the brokerages are very similar with agent count and sales per agent. So he's like, this is why it's easy to move an agent from like KW to EXP. It's because we look at our volume and our metrics are close. So when he looked at that list, it was like LPT, Fathom, and Homes of America. They were all at like 15,000 agents and they all did like 2 sales per agent. And he's like, this is my guessing block right here.
Interesting.
So I was like, actually, after consuming that idea, like Redfin actually is the most productive brokerage in the country. They had an average of 23 sales per agent because they operate like a big team.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think the biggest myth, honestly, is that's the biggest myth, is that your brokerage brand matters more. It doesn't matter. But number 2 is also like that the boring stuff works. Like right now, you hear what are agents gravitating towards again? It's like leads. But the reality is, every time I meet with an agent to in my organization, I make them fill out this form. And I want to know 2 things. Are they spending less than 5 hours a week on generating leads? And are they spending less than 5 hours a week in their CRM? And if they say yes, that they're less than on both, and they have to be honest, and they're not selling real estate, I'm like, this is your problem. And people just don't want to do the easy stuff.
It's true. They don't want to do the foundational stuff that got this industry where it is today.
Yep. And so, I feel bad for the agents out there that are struggling or, putting themselves into debt. But we are all given the capability and the option to take the next step forward. And it's like I tell my daughter all the time, I said, the food sitting in front of your face at dinner, it's your choice whether or not you put it in your mouth and fill up your body with nutrients and fuel. And it's the same thing with conducting lead generation activities. It's like agents wonder why when they generate leads, they make money. And it always goes back to a core principle. So strip away all the social media stuff. I am the biggest proponent in the world on Sphere. 70% of sales in our industry are Sphere. Everyone should be engaging their Sphere. It's an easy target.
Yep, 100%.
Then let's bring in a secondary item.
Agreed. Okay, so how can people find you? Where can they go?
Channel Junkies YouTube channel is like where people can go and watch our marketing. It's like the entry point to like knowing us. And then you can follow me on Instagram, Jesse_YouTube_agent.
Love it. Okay.
Yep.
And then leave us with one final thought. Give us one. I'm going to tell you what the thought I want it to be.
Okay, go ahead.
What is your big, bold prediction for real estate in 2026?
Okay. So what I've been encouraging my agents that I work with on my teams and in my organization is I'm like, do the hard work now, because when I got into real estate, I interviewed all these brokerages and I was always like, how many sales have you done in the last 12 months? And then like, what was your business like when the market crashed? And what I realized, and I interviewed over 40 teams and brokerages, is what I realized is the ones that said that they like focused on bank-owned properties and short sales were the ones that were now doing like 300 units a year or more. It was the ones that said that they like basically barely survived and almost went bankrupt were the ones that today were not hardly doing anything. So I love what John Sheplack says is like, if the market's down 30, you need to reduce your expenses by 30 and do 30% more output in lead generation to like offset the delta. So my thing is increase your lead generation, if you're not, you should be doing a minimum of 2 hours a day. If you're an agent, invest in your education and live in your CRM. If you do those simple things, focus on your A and B clients, try to get your B's to your A's and only focus on them. Don't worry about your C's and your D's. Only do those activities. And in 2026, because the rates are coming down, they will drop. When Powell gets taken out, the rates will drop. We're going to have like a 30 to 60 day time period where the market, like buyers will still have the run of the mill, but it's going to come fast and heavy because the inventory is too low and that market will get sucked out. I actually hear people saying that the prices are going to fall because there's going to be so many listings. They're insane. That's not the way it works. And so when the market rebounds, you better have your systems in place, because the biggest mistake I hear top producers say is that they wish they had systems in place when COVID hit because they got flooded with so much business. So now is the time to get your systems on point, get your processes on point, do the basics. And when the market comes back, well, one is right now when the market's slow, you're going to be getting business because you're doing those things. But when the market shifts back, you're going to have so much exponential growth that's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So take market share when it's slow and grow exponentially when it's hot. That's my motto.
I love it.
And execute with a sense of urgency. That's my number one pillar.
Execute with a sense of urgency. Who was it? Tim and Julie Harris. They say, do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level.
Yep. There you go.
It's like, I love it. So anyway, thank you, Jesse, for being here on this show. Anyone who wants to get a hold of Jesse, just do so. We'll have his links down below. And we appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next episode.